What does the Bible say about the Antichrist? The scripture gives us a lot of information on this man who will kill Christians and Jews alike. The Bible does not reveal his name, but it tells us where he is from. And guess what? It's not Rome. Come and see. Rome or Babylon? Traditionally, the Antichrist, also known as the man of sin, has been believed to come from Rome based upon Daniel 9:24 through 27. However, as we will see, this view takes Daniel 9:24 through 27 out of context. I am going to show you from Scripture that the Antichrist comes from Babylon, modern-day Iraq. I will show you how the context of Daniel 9 has been abused, and that Isaiah 14 describes the Babylon Antichrist. Let's get to it. The term Antichrist. The Greek title Antichrist occurs 5 times in the New Testament. Literally, the term means against Christ and secondarily in place of Christ. John is the only biblical writer to use this expression, although other books of the Bible refer to him. John initially used the word twice, 1 John 2:18. Little children, it is the last hour, and as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming, even now many Antichrists have come. The apostle made a distinction between the many purveyors of falsehood of his generation that preach an anti-Christian message and the future Antichrist. Why Daniel 9 does not point to a Roman Antichrist? The main rationale given comes from the prediction in Daniel 9:26. The author pens, "And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary." Many commentators have taught that this event was fulfilled in AD 70, when the Romans destroyed Jerusalem and Herod's temple. Based on this assumption, they conclude that the Antichrist must be Roman, since the Romans destroyed the temple. Sadly, this view rips Daniel's prophecy out of context. 490 years of Daniel's prophecy. There are 2 primary points of focus in Daniel 9:24 through 27. The 69th, the time of Jesus' triumphal entry, and the 70th week of the prophecy, the tribulation. The term weeks is not a good translation and should be sevens. So in plain English, 70 years times 7, which is 490 years. The context of the passage pertains to years, Daniel 9, verse 2. Daniel's 69 weeks. We are informed, "Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks, or 69 years times 7. The prophecy begins in 444 BC with the command of Artaxerxes to rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and ends with Jesus riding in Jerusalem during the triumphal entry and presenting himself as the Messiah in AD 33. How many years happen between these 2 events? 483 years, or 69 times 7, just as Daniel foresaw. Daniel's 70th week. Daniel's 70th week pertains to the tribulation. It matches the time frame of Revelation 6 through 19, which lasts 7 years. The Antichrist activity during this period is recorded in Daniel 9:27. Daniel records, "Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, 7 years. But in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to the sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abomination shall be one who makes desolate." The Antichrist makes a covenant with Israel for 7 years and violates that covenant at the midpoint of the tribulation by erecting the abomination of desolation in the temple at Jerusalem. Clearly, the scope of Daniel 9:24 through 27 consists of 2 things: Jesus' triumphal entry and the activity of the Antichrist during the tribulation. Now consider Daniel 9:26 in light of the range of the passage. "And after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself, And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end of it shall be with a flood. Until the end of the war, desolations are determined. Messiah dies just days after his triumphal entry, which purview is in our passage. However, the reference to the prince who is to come does not point to the temple's destruction in AD 70 by the Romans. That happened decades later and throws off the entire prophecy of 69 weeks. However, so many people have taught this theory that many Christians simply accept it. The Antichrist does not come from Rome. The Antichrist is not predicted in Daniel 9:26 to come from Rome because of the destruction of the temple in AD 70. Is not the range of the passage, therefore, the Antichrist is not European? Rather, he is described in the same verse as bringing devastation to Jerusalem and the temple during the tribulation, which remains within the one of two focal points of Daniel 9:24 through 27, which passage corresponds to Zechariah 14, 1 through 4. Revelation 13 further reveals that the man of sin will desecrate the temple that will be erected in Jerusalem by setting up an idol that comes to life. He will declare himself to be God in that very same temple. Daniel describes his impudence. Then the king, the Antichrist, shall do according to his own will. He shall exalt and magnify himself above every god, shall speak blasphemies against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the wrath has been accomplished, for what has been determined shall be done. He shall regard neither the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above them all. Moreover, why does Ezekiel receive specifications for a new temple in Jerusalem for the millennium? It is because the Antichrist destroys the temple during the Great Tribulation as predicted in Daniel 9:26. Elsewhere, the destruction of the temple in AD 70 is predicted, but it does not fit the context of Daniel 9:24 through 27. Although many suggestions have been offered about the Antichrist's lack of desire for women, I believe the plain reading of the text shows that he will either be a sodomite or just doesn't have any need for a relationship with a woman. As a side note, some commentators suggest that the Antichrist will be Jewish because he shall regard neither the God of his fathers. Yet the word God is plural and most likely should be understood as gods, since he disregards every former god. The Antichrist in Isaiah 14. Traditionally, the 5 I will statements from Isaiah 14, 13 through 14 have been attributed to Satan. However, the passage directs us to the statement of the Antichrist when he sits in the temple at the halfway mark of the tribulation and proclaims himself as the true God. Isaiah wrote, "How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." The name Lucifer derives from the Latin Vulgate, not the original Hebrew, and means shining one. This term only occurs once in the Hebrew Old Testament and denotes bright one and refers to the king of Babylon. Unlike the passage in Ezekiel 28 that clearly connects Satan with the text because he was in the Garden of Eden, Isaiah 14 directs us to the king of Babylon, who could be the Antichrist. Isaiah 13, 1 through 14:23 is a prophecy of the future judgment of Babylon. Moreover, the person targeted by Isaiah will have a worldwide impact much like the Antichrist. After his fall, Isaiah reported about his manhood. Those who see you will gaze at you and consider you, saying, "Is this the man who made the earth tremble, who shook kingdoms, who made the world as a wilderness and destroyed its cities, who did not open the house of his prisoners?" Also, he is described as experiencing decay and death. These reasons seem to connect the king of Babylon to the Antichrist. Furthermore, the king of Babylon derives from a long line of sinners according to Isaiah 14:21, which speaks about the iniquity of their fathers. His demise is in conjunction with the day of the Lord, which consists of the tribulation throughout the millennial kingdom. The region will never be inhabited again after his downfall, which fits the destruction of Babylon described in Revelation 17 through 18. The Antichrist will come from Babylon, Iraq. The prophecy from Isaiah and Daniel fits perfectly to describe the Antichrist as a Babylonian, a man from modern-day Iraq. Therefore, the Antichrist will make and then break his covenant with Israel at the midpoint of the tribulation. At that time, he will declare himself to be the true God from the future temple in Jerusalem. This is probably when he will make the 5 I will statements, as found in Isaiah 14:13 through 14. He will later be thrown into the lake of fire by Jesus and will be mocked by the dead. The Bible makes a good case that the Antichrist is a Babylonian. And that is theology. And understanding the Antichrist for everyday life.